Let's talk about the dunder init method in Python. So I've got a class here called point. I can construct a new instance of this class by calling it with open and close parentheses. So I've got a point object at this point, but this point object really has no point in that the point class has no functionality, there's no methods, and there's no data stored on this object. Now I could manually add attributes to this object to store some data, but that would be a little bit silly to do. It would be better if I could somehow call this class with arguments and store attributes automatically. Now, if I try to call this class with arguments right now, I'll get an error. This class does not accept any arguments. In order to accept arguments, we need to make a dunder init method that is double underscore init double underscore. So this dunder init method, its first argument is always going to be self, just like the first argument of pretty much every method on a class. After that, we're going to accept whatever arguments that we want our class to accept. The thing we pretty much always see done in a dunder init method is assigning to attributes. So we're going to say self.something equals something over and over. Self.x equals x, and self.y equals y in our case. So with this new point class, if I call it like before without any arguments, we'll see an error because this class requires two arguments, x and y. So we need to give it two arguments in order to get a new instance of this class. Now at this point, this class instance, this point object has an x attribute and a y attribute, which means our dunder init method was called. Python knows that whenever you call a class, its job is to construct a new instance of that class and then call the dunder init method on that class, passing in the newly constructed instance, which is self. So we don't call dunder init the constructor method, unlike some programming languages. Dunder init in Python is called the initializer method. We initialize our class instance, which is self, inside our initializer method. So by the point that the initializer method is called, the class instance has already been constructed. Python does that, and then it calls dunder init to initialize it. So when you make a new class in Python, pretty much the first method you're going to make is the dunder init method. That dunder init method allows you to accept arguments to that class, and more importantly, it allows you to assign initial values to various attributes on your class instances. That's the dunder init method in Python.